Hello there, Facebook community. This week in the group, in the Successful Breastfeeding community here on Facebook, my team and I are talking all about sleeping with your baby, co-sleeping, and how to get more sleep when you are breastfeeding. If you are here with me, please do let me know. I love getting comments during lives so that we can interact and engage in conversation. Give me a like, heart, anything so that I know that you're here and you are watching. If there are questions that come in at the end of this, I will answer them. So please do pop them in while I'm on live, or if you're watching the replay, go ahead and throw them in the comments and I will respond to you later. But yeah, let's dive in. Let's talk about this. Okay, so we hear a lot when we are pregnant about how we are never going to sleep again when we have a baby. And we do very often hear from families that, something that they find really attractive about formula feeding is that you don't have to be the only one responsible for your baby in the middle of the night. Or on the flip side of that, we'll hear from people that they want to pump and have their partner bottle feed their baby in the middle of the night so that they can get more sleep. And those are very attractive ideas. And if that's something you want to do, by all means, go for it. But we do caution anybody who comes to us and says, I'll just give some formula for these nighttime feeds so that baby can sleep a little bit better, or I'm just going to pump and let baby take a bottle so that my baby can sleep better at night. We caution you that if you're going to do this, you're really not going to get a whole lot of extra sleep anyway, because if your goal is to exclusively breastfeed your baby, or exclusively feed your baby breast milk, or nurse for an extended period of time, not nursing at night is actually really bad for your milk supply and can be detrimental to your milk supply. So if you are especially in this newborn phase, which is the first 6 weeks, that's when you're going to be most sensitive and your hormones are going to be in their most sensitive place. So if you're taking time away from the breast and not nursing at night so that somebody can give your baby a bottle instead, you're going to set yourself up for a low milk supply. And this is actually one of the things that gets a lot of new parents into some hot water with milk production, because they want to take that break at night so they can sleep and give their baby a bottle, and then they don't pump. Right? So if you're giving your baby a bottle in the middle of the night, you gotta wake up and pump to replace that feeding. So you might as well just bring your baby to the breast, because it's really not a break for you, right? That being said, we're not here to talk about pumping and bottle feeding in the middle of the night. We're actually here to talk about how you still can nurse your baby through the night and get these night feedings in, which are absolutely crucial for milk production, and do so in a way that provides you some sanity and gets you the most sleep possible, because I love sleep and I am all about finding ways to make sleep better and more efficient, especially if you are breastfeeding. So let's talk about that. What we're talking about right now specifically is co-sleeping and the umbrella of co-sleeping. So most people hear the word co-sleeping and they automatically assume co-sleeping means bringing baby into bed with you. And yes, that is one form of co-sleeping, but it is not co-sleeping, period. Co-sleeping can mean many different things. So we're going to talk about the whole umbrella of co-sleeping today, and throughout this week in the group. We're going to do another video in the group to talk a little bit more about co-sleeping, and pay attention to the posts that are coming from the Successful Breastfeeding page this week and next week, because we're really diving into this topic. I want to empower you guys with the tools that you need to be able to sleep as close to your baby as you can and do so safely. And the safety part of this is really important, because there is not one way to sleep with your baby that is safe for everybody. There are some rules that we need to follow, and these are very important rules that should not ever be broken. So, talking about co-sleeping and the umbrella of co-sleeping, let's start with baby being farthest away, and we'll work towards baby being closest to us. So, co-sleeping in a nutshell just means sleeping near your baby. As humans, as mammals, we are not meant to be nested. Our babies are not biologically designed to be nested. And what I mean by nested, I mean by placed on a separate surface alone, and especially when they're on a separate surface alone, not near their parents, especially mom and their milk, right? So other animals like birds, those are nesting animals. And for them, that's biologically normal. It's normal for mom to leave them for long periods of time and then come back. But for us, that's not how we are designed. So we often see that when you take a baby and put them down in the crib in their own room, they just don't sleep very well. And it's because they have that biological need to be close to us. So co-sleeping solves a lot of these issues around sleep just by having baby near you. And there's lots of different ways to do it. The first way to do it is to have your baby in a separate sleep surface, like a crib, and have them in your room somewhere. That could mean that, your bed's over here and your baby's all the way over here in another corner, but they're still in your room. One of the benefits to this form of co-sleeping is that your baby is close enough to you that they can still hear you, they can still smell you, okay? There is some evidence to show that a baby can actually smell their mother within like a very large range, like up to like 100 feet away, which is pretty crazy and really cool. So if you are still in the same room with your baby, they can still sense that you're there, they can still sense that you're not too far away, and they tend to sleep a little bit better. Another benefit, not just for them but for you, is that when they wake up in the middle of the night, they're not going to have to fully wake up before you're able to get to them, because they're going to start to stir, they're going to start to wake up a little bit, they're going to be so close to you that you can go get your baby, nurse them, and then place them back down before they have to fully wake up. You don't have to wake up as much. They're not going to escalate to this point of getting really upset, because if they're off in another room or down the hall or sometimes even on a totally another flight of stairs than you are, there's going to be time from you realizing that they're crying on the monitor to you then getting up, to you then leaving the room, getting into their room, picking them up, and then bringing them to the breast. Where if they're just a short walk from your bed to the crib, super fast, really easy, really great way to get to your baby. The next form of co-sleeping is actually bringing them from in your room, in another part of your room, to right next to your bed. And there's a few different ways to do this. This is even more beneficial because baby is literally right there next to you, and you can do it with a crib and have a crib with your baby sleeping on their own separate sleep surface right up next to your bed. Or they even make what's called arm's reach co-sleepers, which are essentially 3-railed little bed crib systems. I don't know why I can't think of the word that I'm looking for right now, that you actually attach to your bed, and it's literally attached to your bed, not just placed next to it. That attachment portion of it is critical for safety, because their bed needs to be at the same level as yours, and it needs to be securely placed next to your bed so that there doesn't have any gaps between their sleep surface and yours, so that they can't get rolled into it or stuck, which is actually one of the risk factors that we need to avoid. We need to avoid anything that could cause baby to roll face down and get stuck. So having a gap between their co-sleeper and your bed is not something that you want to have. So make sure if you are using a co-sleeper with 3 rails that it can attach securely to your bed at the same level. And there are different types of these co-sleepers that you can purchase if you want, or like I said, you can literally just get their crib and pull that up close right next to your bed. They're an arm's reach away, so it's going to be really easy for you to pat and soothe them, pick them up, nurse them, and then immediately put them right back without even having to get out of your bed, which is a really great benefit to this form of co-sleeping. Now, to take them one step closer to you, you could also have them they make these baskets that you can place in your bed, which are essentially like a tiny little pack and play that have sides, usually made out of mesh, that you can place in your bed and have your baby sleep next to you in your bed with you. This is an option for people who maybe don't have enough space to have a co-sleeper or a crib next to them in their bedrooms. And this is an option for people who otherwise would not be safe to sleep with their baby directly next to them in their bed. Now, again, there's going to be some very specific rules that you're going to have to follow with using a basket like this. Every time we bring baby a little bit closer to us in our bed, we need to make sure that we are following the safety rules for sleeping with a baby in your bed. So the basket option is something you can look into as well. I would avoid anything that is like flimsy in structure and not made specifically for co-sleeping. I would definitely look into a modern product and consider looking into information from Dr. James McKenna, because he is the leading researcher when it comes to co-sleeping and bed sharing safety. So speaking of Dr. James McKenna, let's talk about bed sharing. Bed sharing is what most people picture when we talk about co-sleeping, and bed sharing is incredibly beneficial, and it's something that can really transform sleep, especially in this newborn phase when you're healing from birth and you're trying to figure out breastfeeding and establish a healthy milk production. Bed sharing is what we have naturally done as a species pretty much since the dawn of time. And there are ways to do it safely. Again, we are going to dive into the topic of bed sharing much more in depth next week, and I'm going to talk specifically about all of the safety steps that you need to take. If you want to know more about bed sharing, I did share the link earlier in another post where we announced this live video. I can throw it in the comments as well, so you can dive deeper into bed sharing and what makes it safe. But just a quick overview of the safety features for bed sharing. I do not, absolutely 100% do not recommend bed sharing unless you are nursing your baby exclusively at the breast. So not pumping and bottle feeding, I mean exclusively nursing at your breast, zero formula supplementation, only breast milk from the breast. I also do not recommend it if you're giving your baby a pacifier at night. You cannot be under the influence of anything. This includes prescription medications, prescription painkillers, not ibuprofen, but anything with codeine or like Vicodin or anything like that. So if you've had Norco is often prescribed. So if you've had a cesarean section and you're being prescribed painkillers, you should not be sleeping with your baby. If you've had an alcoholic beverage or are under the influence of any sort of stimulant, or depressant, you should not be sleeping with your baby. If you are overweight, you should not be sleeping with your baby. This is actually a really big risk factor, mostly because when you lay on a bed and you are overweight, you can create a dent in your bed, and baby is more likely to roll down and go face forward, which is something we don't want, right? And we should also not be placing our babies in bed with us next to someone else, even if it's dad. Baby should only be next to you, never between you and someone else. There's also some very important things you need to make sure you're doing with your bed itself to keep it safe, as far as pillows, blankets, and how those are arranged, what's safe, what's not. And again, we'll share that information in the blog. I'm not going to go too in depth with it today. And then other safety factors as well, including cigarettes. If you smoke cigarettes, even occasionally, you should never sleep with your baby. If your partner smokes cigarettes, even occasionally, and they sleep in your bed, you should never sleep with your baby, even if they are not next to you, because that in itself is a risk factor for SIDS, and smoking actually changes the way that we breathe, and babies rely on us and our bodies to help them regulate their breathing and body temperature, heart rate, and all of that. So if we have altered levels of breathing, it can affect what our baby is doing as well, not to mention that secondhand smoke inhalation, which smoke clings to our hair, it clings to our clothes, right? So we need to make sure that we are keeping baby safe. So if those are factors that you have, then bed sharing should not be something you're considering. That being said, if you have these risk factors, co-sleeping is still safe, just not in your bed. You can still have baby on a separate sleep surface next to you in your bed, either with an arm's reach co-sleeper or in a crib pulled up right next to your bed. You can also have baby in your room with you still. We advocate heavily for these things if you do meet this other criteria or have these risk factors, because having baby close to you and having the breast as easily accessible as possible is going to be very important for not only establishing your milk supply, but maintaining breastfeeding too. Night nursing needs to happen. It's going to happen. Babies who sleep through the night, those are unicorns. It is so rare to have a breastfed baby sleep through the night. And if we're talking a newborn sleeping through the night as an LC, I'm going to have concerns about your ability to fully establish lactation. So keep baby close, nurse frequently, nurse often, and use some of these co-sleeping techniques to help you get more sleep throughout the night, because I'm telling you, having your baby as close as possible to you at night is really going to set you up for success, if nothing more than to prevent them from getting to the point where they wake up, to the point where they are now more alert and more stimulated, because then you're going to have to do more work to help them regulate and get back down so that they can relax and go into a more restful sleep space. If you can catch them in the middle of the night, those really early waking cues where they are just starting to wake up, you're going to have a much more successful night than if it takes longer to get your baby and get them to the breast and then put them back down. So I hope that this is helpful. I hope that this answers some of the questions that you have about the umbrella of co-sleeping. Just a real quick recap, what co-sleeping can look like. Baby can be in a crib in your room, even if it's all the way on the other side of the room. That is co-sleeping. Your baby can be in a crib next to your bed. That's co-sleeping. Your baby can be in an arm's reach co-sleeper right next to your bed. That's also co-sleeping. You can also use the nursing baskets that physically go inside of your bed but give your baby a separate sleep surface. That's co-sleeping. And bed sharing itself can also be co-sleeping, and is what most people think of when we talk about the topic of co-sleeping. And again, we're going to dive into bed sharing more next week, because bed sharing safety is extremely important, but it's also very beneficial for those of us who can bed share safely. So if you have questions, let me know. I'd love to hear about your experience. Did you use any of these forms of co-sleeping? What was it like for you? Did you like it? Did you hate it? If you did do it, how long did you even do it for? Because you don't have to co-sleep forever. You can co-sleep for the newborn period. Some people choose to do it for longer. It really just depends on what you're comfortable with and what your lifestyle is like, right? So tell me in the comments what your experience was, and until next time, guys.